I appreciate you sharing that. One of the hot button issues, because I do stand up, and so many times comics on stage, especially minority comics,
Mhm.
will talk about, beat your kid. I was beat your kid. That's why these kids are acting up now. How
Mhm.
do you feel about uh, physical punishment, and does the timeout work, or what are our alternatives? Because I think it's not so much about punishment as it is consequences. But talk to me.
Right, definitely, definitely. Man, now that's a. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna try not to get on my soapbox with that one.
No, no, no. Get soapboxy because listen,
Yeah, yeah.
these people need to hear it, and I said these people. That's but I need to hear it. You need to hear it, and because I grew up with physical punishment.
Yeah.
And my mom grew up with physical punishment. It's a generational thing, and you
Yes.
grow up and you think it is natural. And I realize that there's been some, for lack of a better word, PTSD. I wouldn't, but I could definitely feel a response as the of the due to the physical punishment I received as a kid. But it was normal. It didn't feel abusive because all my boys, were punished in the same way. So I, let loose and say all the things. I mean,
Okay, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to try to make sure that I even create a sense of order in which I want to address this, because it is a sensitive topic, and I think it's also, of course, controversial, and is talked about, a lot, to be quite honest with you, from the research standpoint to just everyday conversation that we have, with our relatives, with friends, because like you said, it's a part of a lot of our experiences, including my own. I have to say, and so with that being said, one thing, well, let me even just start from a research standpoint. So, one thing that research shows is that physical punishment has been shown to affect children differently based on background. Let's even say like with race. So, for example, there's some research that I've come across that even suggests that African American children, they actually tolerate, or they're able to tolerate, let's say, physical punishment um, better than, let's say, white children or European American. And so, what that kind of, or kind of getting into that, what that pretty much says is that there are cultural differences. And so, amongst, let's say, the African American group, there are children who, like you and I, where, we maybe brought up and it was definitely used. But at the same time, there was possibly, I can't speak for you, Leo, but I can speak for myself. There was also a sense of understanding as to why it was happening, and there was also a presence of love and connection and care that I also received from my parents. And it kind of maybe falls under the umbrella of what's called authoritative parenting, where it's not just about the physical punishment all the time and bringing your child down and only pointing out what they do wrong, but it's like a combination of maybe physical punishment as well as kind of the caring, open ear, loving type of parenting that you get. And so what tends to happen, and this goes across races, but what tends to happen is that the loving, caring understanding from the child as to why the parent is using, let's say, physical punishment, it kind of serves as like a source of protection as to what damages can occur whenever physical punishment is the only strategy used by a parent. And so that's why, let's say, I can speak for myself. I'll say, well, I was punished. There was physical punishment used, but I don't see how I turned out, in I don't know, in a maybe negative way in which, some people will say physical punishment will cause. And again, that kind of goes back to those other factors, important factors, when it comes to parenting, and how it kind of served as a protection. And it kind of helped overall create, a healthy, child, well-being child or adult, I guess you can say at this point. And so I think that kind of even goes into why is kind of like, well, physical punishment is effective, or it's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you turned out okay. My friend turned out okay. Whereas some research may suggest that, actually it is you shouldn't use it. Is damaging even. And so another thing that I even want to point out with that too, is that research also shows that a parent can go without physical punishment in order to get the same results. So it's almost as if physical punishment is something that you can use it, and in some way, especially in the moment, it can give you the change you want to see in behavior, let's say from a child. But research says that it's not necessary. It's not needed. There are other ways that you can punish, or that you can discipline rather. One thing that you mentioned, Leo, you said, well, does timeout work? It does. It is effective, and it even just depends on the age too. So a lot of times, timeout is what we will suggest and recommend for younger kids. Let's say like 8 and younger. And for older kids, you have to kind of be a little more creative in how you choose to discipline the other strategies. But let's just say timeout, for our younger children, it is effective. But one thing that I run into often with parents is in how they're using that strategy, timeout. So timeout, it sounds pretty simple. It sounds pretty direct to the point. You put a child in a corner or you send them to their room, but there are also some things that you have to understand in order to use it in an effective manner. And this is where, let's say, like what we call parent behavior training would come into play if you were to choose to do therapy because of, let's say, issues that you're having with your child. And I don't think we have that much time for me to kind of really break down what it is specifically that can make a difference in the use of timeout. And it even just depends on the situation as well and what the parent is dealing with the child. But I guess just to give you a simple answer, alternative strategies to discipline or to physical punishment like timeout, it is effective. It's all in how a parent uses it in order for you to see or get the same results that you would like to see or expect to see if you choose to use physical punishment.